Hello and welcome to Vizsla Silver's January 2025 updated maiden resource estimate webinar. I'm John Ward, Investor Relations for Inventor Capital, and it's my pleasure to introduce the Vizsla Silver team who will be presenting the latest resource estimate for our flagship Panuco district located in Western Mexico. Today's presentation will be delivered by Michael Connett, CEO and President, Simon Smerlik, COO, and Dr. Jesus Velador, VP of Exploration. Following the presentation, we will hold a question and answer session. Please submit your questions in a designated area and we'll address as many as we can as the time permits. With that, I'll pass the floor to Michael Connett.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to be here. This is another excellent update and milestone for Vizsla Silver. It's a great way to start the year, and I want to welcome everybody to our webinar here. It really is a pleasure to be discussing this update here, but I also want to say that we appreciate the support of our shareholders and our stakeholders. And I also want to thank the Vizsla Silver employees and our team and the contractors who made this advancement possible for our project. As always, I would like to highlight that Vizsla Silver is traded on the NYSE and the TSX under the ticker VZLA. Now, we will be making forward-looking statements, so I invite everybody to familiarize yourself with this forward-looking statement disclaimer. Vizsla Silver's vision is simple. We are targeting first silver in 2027. To expand on this vision, we have the aim of becoming the world's largest and most profitable single-asset silver primary producer. We will accomplish this vision by driving our Panuco Silver District into production rapidly, but by also being successful at exploration. This mineral resource estimate update allows us to move one step closer towards production, one step closer towards feasibility, and that feasibility we're expecting to move into later this year. And again, that goal of first silver in 2027, might sound far out, but it really is a very short period of time. And there's very few companies like Vizsla Silver that has that runway, that possibility to enter into silver production in this market here that I expect that we're going to have for silver. Vizsla has, an industry-leading tier 1 silver project. However, we believe that our management team is a very important aspect to our asset base as well as to our success. So my name is Michael Connett. I'm the founder and CEO of Vizsla Silver. I'm also the co-founder and managing partner of Inventor Capital. Inventor Capital, we've had a number of successful companies within our group, and we've raised hundreds of millions of dollars over the years for our companies. Simon Smerlik is the key to our operational success. He's Vizsla's not-so-secret weapon. Last year it was a secret weapon. Now I think people have started to hear what Simon's doing for our company. But his operational experience is keeping our project development moving forward. It's maximizing potential, the project potential here. And over Simon's career, he's been involved in over 40 mines, mostly in construction through his role at the world's leading mine builder, Ausenco Engineering. It's important to note that Ausenco, under Simon's guidance, recently completed Silvercrest Las Chispas plant build, which is a very direct analog to what we're envisioning here at Panuco. Jesus Velador has a career-long specialization in Mexican epithermal systems. He's bringing a renowned understanding to the Panuco deposits and our Panuco district, as well as the recently acquired land package that we have here in Sinaloa that is all basically focus on epithermal gold and silver systems, which is Jesus's expertise and focus. And prior to joining us at Vizsla, Jesus has been involved in the top names in Mexico silver, really throughout his career, and including leading the discovery of Juanicipio, or supporting the discovery of Juanicipio on the Fresnillo side, which of course is an absolute tier 1 Mexican silver district and project in Zacatecas. Now just to skip the slide here, one slide. So Vizsla here, we've completed over 370,000 meters drilled to date. That's 979 holes. And that's resulted now in this recent update to 224 million ounces of M&I silver equivalent ounces contained, which is really incredible. That's a number that you don't very often see in the silver space, and certainly this is a snapshot in time and can continue to grow. We also have another 139 million ounces of silver equivalent in inferred. Now, since our last resource update, we've drilled just under 70,000 new meters, 157 new holes, and that's resulted in 46 million new measured silver equivalent ounces, and this is all near surface at primarily the Copala deposit. So incredible performance here from the resource and the conversion, something that you really only see in these tier 1 projects where you have this this excellent conversion rate with grades and ounces increasing, and that's exactly what we saw here. So I'll just highlight a number of these bullet points here. The upgraded resource highlights 11% increase in global contained ounces, a 43% increase in M&I silver equivalent ounces from 156 million to 222 million, 0.4, and 4.5% increase in the average M&I silver equivalent grade. So we've gone from 511 grams, which is high grade, to now 534 grams silver equivalent. We've also seen 30% of indicated resources being converted to measured, which is an excellent number, and 18% of inferred resources converted now to indicated. So all this to say that the first measured resource has been a smashing success. We intended and hoped to target 20 million ounces, and we've more than doubled that in our inaugural measured resource. And again, that really is just paving the pathway forward to feasibility, to reserves, and later into production in 2027. So we're thrilled with this outcome. Now I'll turn it over here to Simon to talk about the resource by vein and beyond.
Thanks very much, Mike, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Mike said, we're really excited to share this resource update. The resource update is a result of all of the infill drilling that we carried out over the past 12 months. And the aim of the infill drilling was really to de-risk the project that we defined in the PEA. And I think we've succeeded with that. We've been very happy to see, as Mike said, we set a target for sort of measured of around 20 million ounces of silver equivalent, and to double that has been very impressive. To see that the improvement in the quality of the information out of Copala that will affect the first few years of mining has been fantastic, and to see the overall resource growth from an infill program as well as the improvement of grade is probably more than what we could have hoped for. I think it really demonstrates the robustness of this first project that we've got. And as you can see from these tables, the majority of the veins that are included in the resource update are actually the areas that we've defined for mining in the PEA. There's small exceptions with San Antonio and Animus, which is less than 7 million ounces of silver equivalent of inferred resources, so really not that relevant. This table really reflects the first project and reflects the basis of the feasibility study that we'll be putting out later this year. At the moment, we've taken the block models from this resource update, and we're really looking at optimizing the mine plan that we defined in the PEA, and looking at the improvements that we can make to that, looking at how we can potentially bring even more cash flow forward and improve the economics of the project overall. So all in all, a really exciting update today. Another interesting aspect of this is this sensitivity table that demonstrates that by changing cutoff, we can materially improve grade without losing that many ounces almost across the project. That gives us a lot of scope to, like I said before, improve the mine planning, to really improve the cash flow out of the project, particularly in the earlier years, and to come up with something that's truly world-class in the feasibility study that we'll put out later this year. I think it's really interesting to note that changing the cutoff grade from 150 grams per tonne to 300 grams per tonne across the measured and indicated really doesn't result in that many ounces being lost from the total resource, but it does improve the grade very considerably, as we can see from this table. So, again, indicating the robustness and continuity that we see, particularly in Copala and Napoleon. And when you look at this resource update and compare it against some of our peer group, I think it's easier to see now that this truly is a globally significant resource. We're talking just in the Copala area, we're talking about nearly 2 million ounces of gold equivalent at around 8 grams, just to put it in perspective with gold projects out there. And from a silver point of view, it's just phenomenal. Nearly 150 million ounces of silver equivalent alone in the Copala area. So we're very pleased to be able to demonstrate the quality of this project. We know that we've got a bright future ahead of us here, and the feasibility study will continue to build on that as we move into the next year. I'll stop talking now and I'll let Jesus take us through some of the technical details that I know you're all really interested to dig into. And I'll hand over to Jesus. Over to you, Jesus.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everyone. Well, Michael and Simon have already covered all the global aspects of this new mineral resource update. And well, you have seen the impressive numbers. Now, what we're going to see next is essentially the breakdown by areas, by resource areas. So we'll start with Copala. And what we have here is the spectacular Copala deposits. On the top left-hand side, we have a table showing the variance, comparing essentially this updated mineral resource update versus the previous one, with a cutoff date of September 2023 versus September 2024. And what is remarkable here is to see the important, very significant increase in tonnage in the measured and indicated category. So there is an increase of 1.9 million tons in this measured and indicated category, also tied to an increase in silver grade of 36 grams, which is reflected in the global increase in silver equivalent ounces. So the variance in silver equivalent ounces between the measured and indicated categories, comparing the two resources from a year apart. So it's essentially 48 million ounces silver equivalent. And here on this image, I'm showing the block model with resource classification in red. I'm showing the infer, and in gray is the indicated category, but this is actually for the previous mineral resource update. Both of these, and it's also important for me to mention that both of these mineral resource update have been done by SGS using essentially the same estimation parameters. So there are no variances into the methodologies or parameters using both estimates. And here next, following into the next slide, we see now the block model, but showing the resource classification for the updated mineral resource. And the first thing that you gotta appreciate here is the important increase in indicated blocks, the gray ones, at the expense of the infer resources here in red. So this translates or is essentially the result of conversion of infer resources into the indicated category. And as I highlight, something that we have managed is to convert to convert approximately 29% of infer resources into the measured category, and 41% of the indicated categories were converted into the new measured resources that are being reported in this updated mineral resource update. The measured resources reported here for Copala are quite significant, as you can see. It's they amount to 42.4 million ounces silver equivalent, or 540,000 gold equivalent ounces. So it's quite significant, the increase in the measured and indicated category. As I mentioned, 48 million ounces silver equivalent were increased in these categories, which represent a 48% increase in the measured and indicated category, which is the result of the extensive amount of infill drilling that we completed last year. Moving into the next slide, what we're seeing here It's again the block model for Copala deposits, but this time with the grade interpolation. And this is essentially to, first of all, you can appreciate the magnitude of the Copala deposit. Copala, it's not a small deposit. It's a vein system that runs for over 1.7 kilometers, has a vertical extent going down deep of 400 meters and a 10-meter average true width. But also, it is very remarkable that this deposit has very good grade continuity. And this is something we tested with our most recent infill drilling campaign, drilling the central portion of Copala. And also notice in this grade interpolation done in the block model that the high grade of the deposit is evidenced very well here in these blocks. You can notice that by the fact that the lower grade blocks with color with green that essentially have grades of between 150 and 200 are minimal compared or very less abundant compared to the green to purple blocks in Copala. So essentially, Copala it's a spectacular structure with a very high average grade, and that is reflected here in the grade interpolation in this block model. That still shows some potential also for additional resource expansion. Right now, after all this infill drilling and some expansion drilling that we conducted last year, we identified some potential for expansions, particularly along strike to the north and to the southeast. But more recently, as I'm going to show on my next slide, we have also defined some potential for resource expansion going up deep in the south portion of the deposit, going near to surface. And this is probably more clearly shown in this next image. It also shows some block models with grade interpolation, but more importantly, it is showing the planned mine stops for the years 1 and 2 of production from our PEA from last year. And what is showing here is a testament essentially of the great continuity of Copala. Last year, as I mentioned, and it's the result of this increase in measured indicated category of resources, we conducted a very significant amount of infill drilling in the central portion of Copala. Essentially, is shown here by all those red circles or dots, if you will, in the central portion. And what the intention of this drilling was to essentially upgrade indicated resources into the measured category. But something that we confirmed with this drilling is the great high-grade continuity of the deposit. We drill in this campaign a little bit over 10,000 meters into this area in approximately 33 drill holes. And all of these holes drilled into these years 1 and 2 of planned mine production intercepted the vein. And most of them intercepted very significant widths and high grade. And here what I'm showing is some examples of the kind of grades that we intercepted with this drilling campaign. So Copala, as I mentioned, it's really great. It's a really great deposit, great continuity, and still with potential. The potential I was mentioning to you, it's part of it is shown in the green polygon. This is actually already been drilled last year, but after completion of this infill drilling, we realized that there may be some opportunities for some high-grade zones to extend up deep near surface. And we tested the green area over there, showing it in the next to the arrow that says added, and we confirm extension of high grade going up to surface. So now we are confident that to the southeast of this green area, we have some other opportunities to follow up the trends, high-grade trends up deep, and which will allow us to add additional, resources into Copala in the short term. Now, in Napoleon, similar situation here. In the bottom right corner, we have the table showing the variation or the comparison between the two mineral resources. In shadow in blue, we have the most recent update. And you can immediately notice that there has been also a significant or very important increase in tonnage in the measured and indicated category, and also an important increase in the silver equivalent ounces in the measured and indicated category. Unfortunately, the silver equivalent grade in the measured indicated category has dropped a little bit, has decreased in 3.4%. But what is remarkable is the increase in tonnage and also the global increase overall throughout the deposits, and particularly the 18% increase in the measured indicated contained metal. As similar to Copala, all the increase that we see now in the measured and indicated category that is clearly shown here in this next slide has been at the expense of infill resources. So in order to grow our indicated category resources here shown in gray, so we have lost approximately 9% of infill resources. And this is, again, the result of an important amount of infill drilling conducted, particularly during the first half of last year. Napoleon, it's a very important structure as well. We talked about Copala, the impressive, strike length, and particularly the very impressive true width of Copala. But Napoleon is not less important. Napoleon runs for 2.6 kilometers, and it has a vertical extent of a little bit over 500 meters in the southern portion. Notice also this is the block model with grade interpolation. It's showing some or several high-grade zones, blobs along the mineralized terrain plunging to the southeast. And something that we have done very recently, we started working on last year, is on defining or understanding better the structural and geochemical behavior of Napoleon in order to define trends or vectors to exploration. So something that we defined recently based on alteration mineralogy using the TerraSpec and also interpretations of metal ratios taking advantage of all our huge assay database, is that there's potential for 3 to 4 potential feeder zones along this strike length of the vein. And 3 of them are shown here by these blue arrows here. So these are potential locations for feeder zones feeding high grades into this very significant strike length of the vein. And this is one of the targets that we have. But there are others. For example, there's the fact that we have on the hanging wall side of Napoleon vein, we have multiple veins placed, particularly in the south. But one of them is the hanging wall 4. This hanging wall 4 vein runs from essentially the north central portion of Napoleon all the way to the south into the Ojo de Agua zone. This hanging wall vein 4, it's a shallow dipping vein that has shown very significant silver and gold grades, and it still remains open to the east. So to conclude with Project One, so Project One has this spectacular resource that we have provided some of the highlights now, but it also still hosts significant potential for resource growth. So there are multiple resource expansion opportunities in the resource areas that we have that we already know. For example, as I mentioned, Copala Southeast, and it's open up deep. It's open along strike as well to the south, but more importantly, we think there's potential for high grade extending up deep near to surface. There's, of course, potential for resource expansion to the north along strike as well. In Napoleon, we have also at least a couple of opportunities for resource expansion. One of them being the Hanging Wall 4, which we have barely explored because most of the drilling has, of course, been designed to explore Napoleon, not the Hanging Wall veins. But this Hanging Wall 4 vein has shown continuity from the northern part of the Napoleon vein system all the way to the south. It's shallow dipping, and it has shown very significant silver and gold grades. Another opportunity area for resource expansion, of course, is, as I mentioned, the potential for finding the feeder zones at depth in Napoleon. We have defined trends for this pointing to these potential feeder zones, and this is something that remains to be explored in the near future. We didn't talk about La Luisa this time, but La Luisa is a recent addition to the mineral resource base. It was added actually in our previous mineral resource update from last year, but now for the first time we declare a little bit of indicated resources into the deposit. And because of that we have allocated most of the drilling resources particularly to the risk in Copala and Napoleon through last year, we haven't allocated a lot of resources for exploration and expansion of La Luisa. But the potential for expansion of La Luisa is still there. There's significant potential for expanding La Luisa along strike, and we still haven't fully tested a 400-meter gap that we have between the current mineral resource at La Luisa and a few holes that we drill very shallow, close to near surface in the northern part of La Luisa. Besides, because of the tremendous mapping efforts that the team has done on site, and they now complemented with the use of the LiDAR survey and the TerraSpec mapping, we have defined another set of targets, and I'm listing 6 of them here. All of these targets, 6 targets here listed, are very important and have good chances for discovery of new mineralization, just around within a 3-kilometer radius from the current mineral resource areas. Well, last but not least, we have Project 2, as we have mentioned in previous webinars and conference as well. Project 2 is essentially located in the northeast portion of the Panuco district, and the objective for this Project 2 is essentially finding additional mineralized centers. And the approach for finding these mineralized centers that we are applying is through essentially mapping, with the support of LiDAR, our most recently acquired WorldView 3 multispectral satellite imagery, detail mapping, as I mentioned, and also with support of the TerraSpec alteration mapping technique. So in this area, we already have defined high priority targets shown here or circled by these blue circles. And we already deployed 2 drill rigs in this area to start testing these targets with the objective of, first of all, understanding the vein systems and the potential for these areas of hosting significant resources. So we already have 2 drill rigs turning in this area. One of them is in the San Dimas area, and the other one in the Galeana. And with what we are right now, what we are seeing or where we are aiming is to understand the vein systems in these areas and assess the potential for high grade or Copala-like deposits in these selected targets. In addition to drilling, we have planned for this year geophysical studies, and we are going to start off by conducting a ground EM survey in a few targets in Project 1, but also in these selected targets in the Northeast. That, the survey is intended to help us to understand better the behavior of the structures at depth, and also to potentially give us additional vectors to make our drilling, exploration drilling, more effective in terms of finding mineralization. So I think with this, I'll hand it over to Mike again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jesus. Just want to pull up this slide here to talk about our dual track strategic plan. And you can see with the number of check marks here, we've certainly accomplished a lot since 2024, including the PEA, conversion drilling, starting the bulk sample test mine at the end of last year, which is just really, really excellent. So I want to congratulate our team for achieving all of these milestones on schedule. I think it's really important that we're able to do this type of work. So we're thrilled with this outcome, and I think Jesus hit on that very well, that we do have Project One, here in the West with Copala and Napoleon. This is an area that if it were on its own, it was its own company, would see huge incremental growth just through near-term exploration. Then, of course, we have all the rest of the Panuco district to the east to explore, and exploring in a prolific silver belt is very exciting. And that's something that we're doing now, as Jesus just talked about. So it's there's really two ways for us to win here, with the development of Project One, and then, of course, with the discovery of Project Two, and certainly we envision Project Three, Project Four, et cetera, as time comes through organic growth. And to that end, of course, we've tripled our land package in 2024. I do believe there's probably going to be other accretive acquisitions in this very in this very prolific and nascent, in a way, silver trend here that's really been overlooked. So we're very excited about that. So as a result, of course, we, I think, I often have the phrase of being criminally undervalued, which, maybe I won't say today, but, I do believe we are massively undervalued. And I think if we look at, the multiples that an average developer receives, and the multiples that an average producer receives on a PNAV basis, you can really start to hone in on that re-rating potential. Even if we were not to find one additional incremental ounce, the ounces that we do have being de-risked and driven through to production would cause, on average here, a 3x re-rating if you use the producer PNAV multiple. And of course, that's across a handful of producers. Many of those don't even make money at kind of long-term forecast silver prices. If you go back and look at our PEA, you can see that this is one of the most profitable silver mines as envisioned by the PEA globally, with the sub $10 AISC. And in the first 2 years, an $8.50 AISC, which is just spectacular. So we look at this and we see the playing field of silver producers. We see the imminent re-rating potential as we continue to just achieve the goals we set out for this year, which is the feasibility study, the test mine, moving towards permitting, and then later into construction. This is the type of thing that shows historically to re-rate companies very similar, the companies just like Vizsla's here. So we're excited by that. And again, we do look at the potential to have organic growth throughout our portfolio. And again, you can see that we're looking forward to Project 2, Project 3, Project 4 through exploration. And I could see a world in which Vizsla is certainly exceeding the production profile that we set out in this PEA, even with the feasibility and beyond. So it's a very exciting opportunity here at Vizsla. And really, the best thing about this, I think, putting myself in the shoes of an investor. Of course, we are investors. We've been buying the stock ourselves. Both Simon and I and other insiders have been very active buying Vizsla shares on the market. And, we do look at this as put ourselves in the shoes of our shareholders and our investors. And there's really something special and something rare to what we have here at Vizsla. And it is that fast track to production. We're in a district that's produced for 400 years. It has an immense amount of disturbed area to mining, to agriculture, to other purposes. And that disturbed area allows us to expedite the pathway into production. It allowed us to receive permits for the underground test mine very rapidly. But again, if you put yourself in the shoes of an investor here, really the downside is protected by the resource that we have now, an M&I resource, which is very high confidence, basically next to a reserve. We have a PEA that demonstrates industry-leading economics, and we have a cash position here that really defends Vizsla and its shares from outside risks as well too. So the 92+ million in cash that we have really allows us to execute on the goals that we have for this year, but also allows us to put part of that cash towards the equity portion of CapEx. And again, the CapEx that we've outlaid in the PEA is minimal. It's 224 million. It's less than half of our current US market cap. So that's an excellent position to be in here, and that's part of our strategy to remain well funded, to de-risk the project, drive it forward through to production, and achieve that production in 2027, but also to demonstrate, not only growing land package, not only significant upside on the western portion of the district, but using our tools and our expertise to make new discoveries and demonstrate that this has the potential to become a $1 billion+ silver equivalent ounce district. And all because of this, I believe that we're significantly undervalued, and I think we show that we have strong leverage to the metal price, but we're not negatively impacted by the daily fluctuations of a silver price. We have an inherent value as a business, now a triple-digit IRR, which it doesn't matter what business that is astounding. And because of the rarity of silver assets, I think we deserve a premium on our PNAV and EV per ounce calculations for valuation. And as I outlaid here, this year is truly catalyst rich. I think by the time we reach December of 2025, Vizsla will be a completely different, very positive changes, but a completely different company. So it's a very exciting time to be here, involved in the team here, driving Vizsla forward, but also to be a shareholder and to watch the progress that we're making. So I want to thank everybody again for taking the time to enjoy this webinar. We will have a Q&A session here, and as always, run Vizsla, run.
Thank you, Mike, Simon, and Jesus. As Mike mentions, we'll have reached the Q&A period. I reminder to put your questions in the Q&A box, and thanks to everyone who has already sent them in. So the first question here is, how will the updated MRE inform short-term resources expansion programs? Jesus would like to take that one.
Yes, of course, John. Well, first of all, and what we have seen is that with this updated resource, now we identify new opportunities for resource expansion. And the best example of that is the one that I've shown in slide number 11. With the infield drilling that we were conducting to convert indicated resources into measure, we actually identified an opportunity to expand resources going up deep. And that was essentially seen through observing the trend of high grades. So now with these mineral resources, what we're seeing is a potential for expanding resources in Copala going up deep, not only in this green polygon that I explained before, but also in other multiple areas. So now what we are gonna do is to, based on this new updated mineral resource and block model, see the trends for high grade and find and explore these opportunities going up deep, particularly in the southeast. Similarly, it happens for Napoleon and Luisa. The additional drilling and the updated mineral resource, has led us to identify additional trends in grade that ultimately will give us additional targets, particularly for Copala going up deep near to surface, but in other areas like Napoleon and Luisa, targets at depth for resource expansion.
Thanks, Jesus. So staying with you, what drill spacing was used for the different resource classifications?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for this, in this particular case of Copala, for measured resources, we have used 25-meter drill hole spacing. We typically use between 50 to 60 meter drill hole spacing for indicated resources, and 100 meters on average drill hole spacing for inferred resources.
Great. Another question: what percentage of the pre-inferred resource was converted to indicated, and how much indicated was converted to measured?
Maybe we could go to the let me see, to the comparative table. And well, in the particular case of Copala, for example, it was converted 29% of the inferred into the indicated and measured, and for Napoleon, 9% of the inferred was converted. Most of it, because a little bit of the inferred was also lost due to the impact of reduction due to negative holes in some specific areas. But for the most part, all of these inferred resources were upgraded. 9% for Napoleon and 29% for Copala. 29%.
Okay, great. When can we expect results from the discovery drilling in the east?
Well, we have 2 drill rigs turning at this moment in the northeast into 2 of these district targets in the San Dimas and in Galeana area. We have seen interesting geology, and we have detected some vein mineralization. So we haven't completed our drill hole programs in these 2 targets, but I think during Q1 we should expect some results, and once we receive the assays from the lab and we put all together and conduct our analysis and interpretation, we'll be ready to release some results.
Great, thanks, Jesus. For Simon, can you provide a quick update on the progress of the test mine?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. We're really happy with the progress that we've made there. We've essentially completed all of the surface earthworks, and the infrastructure is coming in place in terms of workshops and clinics and things like that. We've well advanced in the box cut and getting close to the bottom of that, and we've started shotcreting all the walls. We anticipate to be underground in the next couple of weeks. So progress is going really well. The mobilisation, particularly over the holiday period, by the contractor has been great, and as has their support all the way through this. So I think we're making some good progress, and we're going to see that rate even improve over the next couple of months as we really get into the underground development.
Great. Staying with you, Simon, given the size and grade of this new resource, do you foresee a potential throughput change at the mill from what was in the PEA?
At the moment, we're going through an optimization of the mine design and the mine plan that we had from the PEA, really taking into account this resource update. I think I can answer that question better after that, but I don't see the mill size changing dramatically, and certainly not past the sort of 4,000 tonne per day size that we had at the back end of the PEA. There may be an opportunity here to bring some more tonnes, but there's certainly an opportunity to bring some more grade forward. Perhaps alongside that, we can bring some more tonnes forward as well. But this will be a bit of an iterative process at the start of the feasibility study, and I think we'll have clearer answers on all of that over the next month or 2.
Thanks, Simon. For Mike, do you anticipate publishing another resource before or alongside the feasibility study, or will this MRE be used?
I think we can start to plan to use this one here, and if there is increased resources or it calls for an updated resource, we look at that decision as it comes. But right now, I think we're going to just use this as the basis for the mine plan and the feasibility.
Great. And now you're same with you again, Mike. What does the updated resource estimate mean for the value of the royalty percentage held by Vizsla Royalties?
Well, keeping in mind that I'm I'm involved with the VROI, and the earlier disclaimer, I certainly think it increases the value of the royalty. It's de-risking the deposit and bringing it closer to production, and increasing the NPV of that royalty. So any positive advancements or milestones for Vizsla Silver having to do with the project and the production profile, I think can align with positive improvements with the valuation of VROI.
Thank you. For Jesus, to what extent are the silver and gold ratios changing at Copala laterally and vertically?
Well, at Copala, it has very consistent ratios, essentially, based on interpretations that we have seen, interpolations of metal ratios. We don't see real trends of silver to gold ratios. We see mostly trends, marked trends, or very significant trends. And when you compare the precious metals versus the base metals, despite the base metals are not so abundant or in high concentrations in Copala, you're able to see trends in that. And also compared to manganese, because remember, Copala has some manganese carbonate, rhodonite, and rhodochrosite as well. But when you try to see, or you try to find trends in silver to gold, it's really difficult. It's not easy to see trends. So they probably maintain a constant proportion throughout the deposit.
Thanks, Jesus. And are the drill width?
It's true width. For what we saw with respect to drill hole results for Copala, it's true width.
Great. And for Mike, how many drill rigs are currently operating, and are they?
So we have 2 drill rigs turning currently at the project. Both of those are focused solely on exploration at the targets that Jesus has outlined. So as we move through the test mine, which is an incredible de-risking undertaking that we're doing, and moving to the feasibility, we'll assess if there needs to be any other additional infill drilling or work at the core resource areas like Copala and Napoleon. What I think investors can be excited about is the potential for new discoveries through exploration elsewhere in the district. And again, going back to early days of Vizsla, exploration is what's created the first $750, $800 million of value for the company. And I think that the de-risking and development is going to continue to add to that value. But simultaneously, we want to show that exploration upside, and certainly show that this is more than Copala and Napoleon and the swarm of veins in the west, that this has the potential for multiples of center of mass. And that really is our vision and our goal for this initial 10,000 meters of exploration. We're typically used to doing 100,000 meters a year plus, so 10,000 meters is a good start. If we have success, there is scope within our budget to increase that drill budget, but 10,000 meters is ample for testing all of these targets that we have.
Thanks, Mike. Speaking of the search for Project 2, Jesus, what target on Project 2 are you most excited about?
Well, these 5 targets that we have selected are like the most appealing targets that we have in our pipeline. You remember, if you recall from previous webinars, particularly one on exploration, we explained that we have a pipeline of 140 different targets throughout the Panuco district. So these 5 targets that we are testing right now represent the 5 most appealing ones in this area. So essentially, all of them are really exciting. But right now, particularly since we started at San Dimas, we are really excited about what we are seeing. We are seeing interesting things in that area. And in Galeana, we are seeing also some interesting things. So I would say those 2 right now would be in the top of the list. But the ranking could change as new results come along the way towards the conclusion of these 10,000 meters.
Thanks, Jesus. From Mike, how is the permitting coming along?
How is the permitting coming along? Yeah, is that what the question was, John? I cut out for a second.
Yes.
So permitting is moving steadily. It's something that we've been working on, whether it's through the baseline studies with the view of having, our MIA submitted around this time here in 2025. We've been working on this for quite some time. We have a very strong team in country, and we have excellent consultants as well. So, we as a company feel confident in our approach to permitting. We also feel that the permitting structure and the permitting process in Mexico is actually favorable for mines very similar to, or mines like ours here, which is an underground silver mine in an area that has been silver mining for 400 plus years. And the areas that we look to permit for change of use really isn't a large change of use from the existing disturbed land that we see here at the project. So, I think if you look at it on a macro level, on a company level with Vizsla, we have a lot of things to be excited about with permitting. Now, I'm not saying that to overpromise and to say, okay, we're going to get our permits immediately. These are things this is something that's out of the control, out of the hands of Vizsla Silver, and therefore we can't make any promises with regards to timing. But it is our goal to, we have certain timeframes in which we want to receive the permits in order to achieve that 2027 goal. And I think we're well within that framework right now. And I was in Mexico City towards the end of last year, meeting with Claudia's new appointees in the Ministry of Economy and the Secretary of Economy, and then as well there was representatives from Semernet at this meeting. It was the most positive meeting I've had, or experience I've had with the Mexican government since we've arrived here in 2019, and I suspect that we're going to start to see companies like Vizsla, development assets in Mexico, receive permits. So, I think it's improving. I suspect that it'll be relatively straightforward for Vizsla, but again, it's something that is out of our control. So I would say I'm it's probably an overused saying with mining company CEOs, but cautiously optimistic about the permitting scenario here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. And have the agreements with the ejidos been finalized?
Yes, we have all 5 ejidos signed to long-term production agreements. That's something that we did on each of these ejidos. We've done on the same terms, even though they were signed at different times, which I think is a great example of the collaborative nature of these ejidos here. So, we're very appreciative of the communities that host us here at the project. We work very well with them, and they've been supporting our exploration as employees of Vizsla for a very long time now. So we're very happy with the ejido situation at Panuco and Copala.
Great. Thank you, Mike. And thank you all for attending today's webinar and submitting your questions. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out at info@vizslasilver.ca. And thank you for everyone attending.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.